PNP Senator Scott-Motley has clearly stated that she has no intention to resign from the Senate, despite the outcome of the presidential elections for the PNP on November 7, 2020. Mrs. Donna Scott-Mottley has declared that she will not voluntarily resign as an opposition senator after the conclusion of the presidential election for the People's National Party. She is stating that despite whomever will be the new president of the PNP, she will not resign in November 2020. She has clearly stated that she will not be offering any resignations to whomever decides to become the president of the People's National Party. This longtime lawmaker, Donna Scott-Mottley, has stated that there would be no resistance if she were to be asked by the new party leader to vacate her seat in the upper house. Miss Donna Scott-Mottley stated that, "Let me make my personal position clear. If a party leader calls me and says that I would like you to resign from the Senate, I, Donna Marie Scott-Motley, would offer my resignation. However, it will not be done voluntarily." Donna Scott-Mottley is one of 8 opposition senators that were appointed recently by Dr. Peter Phillips, who is currently the PNP leader, who is scheduled to vacate office as the president of the People's National Party in November 2020, after the People's National Party would have elected a new president. He clearly stated that he would be demitting office after the party suffered a brutal defeat of 49-14 in the September 3rd general elections. The Senate appointments that were made by Dr. Peter Phillips were not the recommendations that were made by the People's National Party's youth organization. The youth organization had other ideas with a listing of young persons that they desired to see as senators sitting on the opposition benches. However, these Senate appointments have also caused a lot of contentious matters to arise within the People's National Party. And this is just a few weeks prior to the leadership transition that will come to a close with the presidential elections, which is scheduled for November 7th, 2020. Those persons who are opposed to the appointments have argued that the incoming PNP president will need to select their own senators. However, as it stands, with Dr. Peter Phillips having chosen his 8 persons to sit on the opposition Senate benches, it seems like the next president of the People's National Party will be bound to all of those 8 senators. And these 8 senators are persons who are clearly loyal to Dr. Peter Phillips. The supporters of the PNP have stated that the business of the nation should not be placed on hold while the PNP sort out its various political affairs. Therefore, the Senate should be in place on the opposition side whilst the transition process happens for the new leadership of the People's National Party. Therefore, Donna Scott-Mottley is correct in making her statement that she will not voluntarily resign. However, she has clearly stated that if she is asked by the next PNP leader to resign, she will do so. Dr. Floyd Morris, who was also appointed to the Senate by Dr. Peter Phillips, has stated that he was clear about what he intends to do when the presidential election contest has been settled. But he said he's closing envelope on such a decision as he will not speak on the matter about what he intends to do. As a matter of various internal issues that have presented themselves within the People's National Party recently, it is clear that many are not in agreement with the Senate appointments that were made by Dr. Peter Phillips. It is a matter that the PNP has to settle internally. And of course, Dr. Floyd Morris has stated that he is prepared to make a decision at that point in time when they have discussed the matter internally and have made a decision about same. Mark Golding, who is one of the two political aspirants for the PNP president, has stated that the issue with the Senate appointments are also troubling to him. Therefore, if he were to become president, it seems that he may want to make some changes to the Senate appointments that were made by Dr. Peter Phillips. In a letter to Chairman Fitzjackson, Mark Golding was very clear when he stated that he has an issue with the Senate appointments. He also said that he has concerns that Dr. Peter Phillips had chosen to appoint senators, considering that he had handed in his resignation. Mark Golding also expressed concerns that Peter Phillips was chosen as the opposition leader without a complete discussion with internal PNP members, especially the Member of Parliament. Mr. Golding further noted that the tenure of the 8 opposition senators was for the life of the Parliament. So the appointments that will be binding on the next leader of the opposition are those that have been made in regards to the Senate, unless this new leader chooses to ask the senators to resign. Then it is stated that they would voluntarily do so. Mark Golding has explained that his personal view on the issue is that where individuals are appointed to a public office by someone with a constitutional authority, they should at least offer their resignation when the person who selected them vacates office. The right thing to do is to say to his or her successor, "I would like to offer you a free hand and I am prepared to resign." That is the sentiment being expressed by Mark Golding, who is currently the MP for Southern St. Andrew. Mark Golding, however, has acknowledged that there are varying views on this issue and that the Senate appointees are under no legal obligation to resign from the post to which they were appointed. He further went on to say, "I think from the point of view of political governance, it is the ethical thing to do." Mark Golding was a senator who was appointed under the Portia Simpson Miller administration. However, he has clearly stated that when Dr. Peter Phillips succeeded the current president at the time, Portia Simpson Miller, he told Dr. Peter Phillips that he was happy to offer his resignation. According to Mark Golding, when Mrs. Simpson Miller vacated office, having made me leader of opposition business in the Senate, I had a discussion with Dr. Peter Phillips and mentioned to him that I would be happy to resign in order to give him the space to do what he needed to do. And Dr. Peter Phillips considered it and chose to keep the Senate the way it was. Dr. Floyd Morris and Donna Scott-Mottley appeared quite annoyed at the controversy surrounding the opposition appointments to the upper house of the Jamaican legislature, and are clearly annoyed by the sentiments that are being expressed by Mark Golding in his letter to to Chairman Fitzjackson. According to Mr. Morris, I never wanted to be drawn into this public brawl over what individuals should do when the new leadership takes over, who is unimpaired and one of the longest serving People's National Party's senator currently. Donna Scott-Mottley has clearly admitted that she was quite surprised that the appointment of senators is being made a public ethical question after the courts have made a determination that it is an appointment made by the Governor General that cannot be disturbed. According to Mrs. Scott-Motley, I've never before seen the whole question of the appointment of senators positioned in the way that it has been positioned at the moment. Mrs. Scott-Motley has served as a senator through 3 PNP presidents, having been first appointed by former Prime Minister P.J. Patterson in 2005. And she has clearly said that there has never been an issue before about her tenure during the changing of the leadership of the People's National Party. According to Mrs. Scott-Motley, when Portia Simpson Miller took over from the former Prime Minister P.J. Patterson, there really was no discussion about resigning. Not from Portia Simpson Miller, and Portia Simpson Miller did not ask anyone to resign. Neither was there any private conversations with Mrs. Scott-Motley, who clearly supported Dr. Phillips over Mrs. Portia Simpson Miller at the time. Mark Golding, who is currently the challenger for the PNP presidential post, along with Lisa Hanna, has served in the Senate with 4 of the current opposition senators. The others are all people who Mark Golding has a high regard for. So that issue I would address at that time and make decisions in consultation with them and others, should he become the leader of the opposition. Well, the issues in the People's National Party are many. They extend from small issues to major issues in relation to Senate appointments. First, it was made very clear through a letter that the president of the People's Youth Organization, Crystal Tomlinson, was not in agreement with the Senate appointments that were selected by Dr. Peter Phillips. Of course, at the time, they had also given Dr. Peter Phillips a mandate to resign in 30 days. Of course, they had also presented a listing of their selected 8 senators that they would have liked to see sit on the opposition benches in the upper house of Parliament. But those recommendations were put aside by the president of the People's National Party, Dr. Peter Phillips. He chose to nominate his select choice of 8 persons to sit on the opposition Senate benches. And now the question is, will Mark Golding also choose to keep the Senate intact as the way he would have gotten it if he were to become the opposition leader? And what about Lisa Hanna? What are her views on the current Senate appointments? And would she choose to keep the Senate the way it is? Or would she be asking these persons to resign so that she can select her own 8 persons that she would like to see sit on the Senate benches of the opposition? Well, we don't have a clear idea of what Miss Lisa Hanna's choice would be. But based on the statements that have been made by Mark Golding, he would prefer for the individuals to offer their resignations if he were to become the leader of the opposition after the conclusion of the November 7th presidential elections. So therefore, Mark believes that it is the ethical thing to do in politics. If you are appointed as a senator, and a new leader were to take over for the opposition party or whichever party it is, then as a senator, it is the ethical thing to do by offering your resignation. He believes that it is the best way to go. You should allow the new leader to say, okay, I will choose to keep the Senate as it is. Because his reference point is that when the new leader took over from Mrs. Portia Simpson Miller, he offered his resignation to Dr. Peter Phillips. However, Dr. Peter Phillips at the time chose to keep the Senate as the way it was, appointed by Portia Simpson Miller. Now we await the conclusion of the presidential elections for the People's National Party in November 2020. And we will see what the new leader of the People's National Party will choose to do about the Senate appointments. As we clearly know, the People's National Party's youth organization is not in agreement with the choice. But what influence will they have on the new leader of the People's National Party? Of course, Donna Scott-Mottley has stated that she will not voluntarily resign. She will only resign if and when the new leader asks her to resign from her post of opposition senator. Dr. Floyd Morris is saying that he will address that issue when it comes. However, now